Okay, I just threw in some pumpkin muffins, guys. It's Halloween. I'm feeling all the fall vibes. I got my pumpkin sweater on, and it's all things pumpkin lately here on this channel. But I'm super excited to share with you all the ways I use my canned pumpkin. So the pumpkin cupcakes or muffins are in the pantry. I took a quart of my canned Geet Okasaman squash, which is a native type pumpkin, and I drained that really well, pureed it. I used a half a cup for the last recipe. Now I need a half a cup for some pumpkin pie scones. That's what we're making today. I love pumpkin pie scones. If you guys aren't scone lovers, or just because you haven't tried it yet, I would really encourage you to try it. Do I need a half a cup for this, or do I need a full cup? Pumpkin puree, half a cup, yep. And they're a less sweet, like a biscuit, I guess. Less sweet than, you know, a cupcake or a cookie or something like that. And you can make them savory. You can make them all sorts of ways. So, And that Geet Okasaman squash, guys, is really, really good. Let me find what I need. So to the wet ingredients, we are just adding this half cup of pumpkin puree. I'm going to do my wets first, just because my dry ingredient bowl is dirty from making the muffins, and I still need to rinse that out for you guys. Okay, and then I'm not going to add any milk just yet because that is a pretty wet pumpkin puree. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 egg. I will leave the recipe inspiration down in the comments below, just in case you want to make it and you want to go get store-bought ingredients and not use, you know, you don't have a garden, so you don't have your own preserved goodies in the house. And the recipe calls for brown sugar. I don't have any made up, so what I'm doing is I'm just adding a touch of molasses to the pumpkin puree. I would say that was probably a 1.5 teaspoons or so. For the dry ingredients, we are going to add 2 cups of flour, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Oops. 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. Cinnamon, about 1 teaspoon. Salt, 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, that's well incorporated, so let me grab my stick of butter. So we're going to need a 1/2 cup of butter, you know, just like you're making biscuits, if you're used to making biscuits, but cut it up in cubes, or you can grate it, and then we're going to work it in. You can work it in using forks, using a pastry cutter. I tend to like my hands. Just toss it to get the butter pieces combined with the flour, and then I just get in here and work it as fast as I can with my fingers, breaking that butter up and pushing the flour through my fingers. And what we're looking for is little, like pea-size, crumbly texture. It's okay if you have some chunks of butter left. You just don't want any, like, that hasn't been incorporated and worked into the flour yet. Alrighty, that's good enough. Now we are going to add our pumpkin puree mixture. And I chose specifically not to add any liquid to it because homemade pumpkin puree, I didn't take time to like cheesecloth to drain it. So it's naturally really wet as it is. And if I need milk, I'll slowly add it into the flour mixture. Definitely will not need to add any. Ooh, milk. I don't know if that last clip got filmed or not, but basically I took the dough and cut it in half. I'm using a floured surface, rolled it out into a 5-inch circle, and then I'm just cutting it into thirds. And we will be putting these in the freezer for anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, just to get them really nice and chilled, pretty cold, because you want these to bake while they're nice and that butter's cold in the dough. My cupcakes are in the last minute of cooking, and then I will make together a glaze with you guys that we will use on both the cupcakes and the scones, and I'll be right back with you for that part. Ooh, those pumpkin muffins are good. We'll just set those aside and let those cool. All right, all I did for those pumpkin muffins, if you guys are interested, check out last year's playlist, probably around Christmas time. I made up a whole bunch of jar cake mixes. I had 2 of those that were both half empty, the spice and the yellow cake mix. I dumped those in, mixed an egg with a cup of pumpkin puree, about 1/3 cup of milk, some molasses, very similar, just a wetter mix, and mix that in with those. And I think they turned out pretty darn good. Added some pumpkin pie spice. So we are gonna make up our glaze. And I'm starting with about, what is that? Right at 2 cups of confectioner's sugar. And I have about a half of a 4-ounce jar of pumpkin butter left from the other day when I made pumpkin butter. So we're gonna add that to it. And then I do need some butter melted. We are going to add some maple syrup. Probably about a little less than 1/3 of a cup. While that's butter is melting though, I can get this mixed in and see where we're sitting with respect to true glaze versus icing. Okay, that's a pretty thick glaze. Thin it out with some of this butter. Oh, goodness, guys. So good. I love just using what I have on hand, and I've done this many, many times. So something I want you to know, if you're new to cooking and being creative in your kitchen, is a glaze type frosting. You can do whatever you want with it. The base is just start with some confectioner's sugar and usually butter. But then it can just be super plain like that with just milk. Or you can, like I did, some pumpkin butter, some maple syrup. I've done maple syrup and coffee is another really, really good one. I do that one on cinnamon rolls a lot. But this is just gonna be super festive. All right, we'll add all the last of that butter. Let's see how it tastes though. Delicious. So let's go ahead and, no, those are still too warm. I'll be back when it's time to bake the scones. We'll get those baked. We'll let both cool. Then we'll come back together and we're gonna try something really fun to decorate our pumpkin muffins today. I have some leftover bacon from yesterday's breakfast and I'm gonna see if this will work. I'm just sprinkling it with some of our raw sugar. And I'm gonna microwave it and see if I can't make microwaved candied bacon. And then we'll chop it up and just sprinkle it on top of the... Have you guys ever made candied bacon before? It's so good. All right. So I just have one of my bamboo towels that the bacon was wrapped in. I'm gonna gently lay that on. Hopefully it doesn't stick to it too bad. All right, I'm gonna let those cool for a minute, get nice and crispy out here on the cutting board. It's been about 20 minutes since those scones went in the oven. I have the temperature set to 400 degrees and we're gonna bake those for 15 to 18 minutes. The bacon's nice and cool, so we can crunch it up into little bacon bits. And I didn't tell you guys. Let me taste it. It's definitely sweet, but not as caramelized and candied as it would be if you did it in the stove. But that's definitely a workable trick. I'm getting ready to glaze some and sprinkle on some bacon. Bacon candy bits.
I thought I smelled something good when I got out of the shower.
But I candied it in the microwave.
Oh, really? Well done.
Thank you. Now we will glaze the scones warm, but I didn't want to glaze my pumpkin muffins warm.
That looks good.
Thanks. That's almost restaurant worthy.
Good job, baby.
Thank you. Are you fed enough that you can have a sweet?
I can have a sweet as long as I have lunch afterwards. I haven't had lunch yet. So.
All right, I can't wait for the scones. I have to try this now. So good. And the glaze just drips down the sides.
And my beard. Yeah. The pumpkin is like really, really good. And then that glaze just sets it off.
All right, guys. Stay tuned. We still have the scones coming out, and I'm going to show you a few different ways you can garnish your scones, or you can just freeze them and store them plain as is. But I got some tricks up my sleeve I want to share with you. Ooh, those look good. All right. Tell you what, that is a good looking scone right there. So like I said, I want to anyway. You don't have to. I much prefer glazing my scones as soon as they come out of the oven. It just, they're naturally dry as it is, so it kind of just helps that top layer just get nice and soaked through. And then the glaze really crisp up over the scones. So I was telling you guys I'm going to show you all the different ways that you could decorate. I mean, you could totally serve it just like this. This is a beautiful glaze as it is with all the, spices. You can see that coming through in the glaze. It's really beautiful. But if you want to take it up a notch, and if you have a flavor, taste buds like I do, I love salty sweet, like salted caramels, Salty sweet is my favorite. Like even like pistachio nut ice cream, I prefer a salty sweet mix always. So if you don't like that, we have just some of our raw sugar. You would just want some of the big chunky sugar, and you could sprinkle on that on top of your glaze. I'm only going to do a couple like that. And then if you want it just a little bit more spicy, I'm not going to grab a ton, but you could go through and just sprinkle it with a nice little hint of pumpkin pie spice. Probably do a few of those. But my favorite is Molden's Fancy Salt. And I love it. So it's this nice chunky flake sea salt. And I love that on my sweets. You want to put all your toppings on as your glaze is still wet so it holds on to it. and doesn't sprinkle off. But I do this on like frosted brownies, just anything that I think it would be good with. Well, wasn't that fun? And I still have are you guys recording? Yeah. I still have a third of a cup that we could do something with, right? We could add half and half to this with some pumpkin pie spice and make a coffee creamer naturally. I'm sure I'm going to use this up. I'll just throw it in the fridge in the mason jar. But I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I'm going to taste one of these scones with you guys and just let you know what I think. Off the chain. Oh my gosh. So incredibly good. So incredibly good. In between takes with you guys, Todd was sending pictures to everyone. If you want a scone, if you want cupcakes, come by. We've got them. Because this is way more than him and I need. So, so, so good. All right. Hopefully this inspires you. So that 1 quart of pumpkin, I could get 3 different things from that 1 quart of pumpkin. Get creative in your kitchen. Have a ton of fun. And I love you guys, and I wish you a wonderful, happy Halloween day. I'll talk to you guys later.